Hey,
Oh, nice
welcome back.
snipping. Welcome back. Tim Tom
Welcome
Talk.
back to Tim Tom Talks. Welcome back, Dr. Tom, because you were
Welcome back,
away.
Dr.
We
Tim.
didn't do this last time.
Yes, yes.
So where are you, Dr. Tom? Just remind me.
Los Angeles, California. And where are you, Mr. Tim?
I'm in southern New South Wales, just on the coast, outside a place called Nowra, which,
Nowra.
in case you don't speak Australian, is spelled Nowra. So today I have a question for you, dear friend. How is your relationship with rest?
Well, when you first brought this up today, my initial answer is my relationship to stress has changed significantly as I've gotten older, and that my sleep pattern has completely changed, and that you just get used to getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom or take medicine or things like that. And I don't think the waking up bothers you as much as it does when you're younger. You've had young children for the last 5 years. How has that affected you?
7 years.
7 years.
Seven.
Hey, no, old.
So I'll respond specifically to the question about the kids, and then I'm going to respond, I think, over a longer time frame. So, with the kids, so our kids, Will and Emmy, are 7 and 3 respectively, and yeah, they've been very influential in mine and Belle's relationship with rest. Depending on how well rested they are, whether they're sick or not, what might be going on, in their dreaming states. All of those things impact on us because we have to intervene with them or not at various different times. And we can have a conversation on another day about why it is that kids sleep better alongside their parents, around energy and field and all of that kind of stuff. That's a conversation for another day. So I think my experience is similar for lots of people with parents.
You do what you have to do, but
much.
That doesn't mean that you have the rest that you need.
This is true. This is very true. So this is a question that I framed in one of our seminar groups while Tom was away on a little break, which we'll come to in a minute. And in framing this question, I also offered a response to the group after they had all shared where they felt their relationship with rest was. And my response was this, a little bit intentionally whimsical. So I think most of my life, I have had a very sort of transient relationship with rest. One could describe it almost as akin to a booty call relationship with rest, where.
Now, did you have a lot of booty calls? Booty calls, like every once in a while? Did you have a significant person with the booty call? Like, what were your booty calls like?
What are they like? So is this a question about booty calls or about my relationship with
rest? Okay, yeah.
Relationship metaphorically,
yes.
Yeah, metaphorically speaking. So I think this is why I frame it like that. The way that I've looked at rest has been something that is variable and infrequent or irregular and only there if I need it. Right? It's not a respectful.
If you perceive you need it.
If I perceive that I need it, totally. So the majority of my life, certainly my adult life, I've been one of these always on, always doing people. The overachiever, high achiever label has been attributed multiple times. And what's that meant, or what that has meant, is that I have frequently flirted with burnout, either in a sort of a psychological state or in an energy state, and certainly from a relationship state as well. And what I'm trying to do with rest is move into more of a loving relationship. That's how I'm going to describe it. Moving from a booty call to a loving relationship where there is, appreciation, there are mutualisms, there is reciprocation. Absolutely. And that there is also an understanding of all of the variability within rest. So we spoke before, it's banner time. You ready? Here's my little tricks. These are the 7 sort of forms or modes of rest that we spoke about a couple of weeks ago.
Let me just ask you this. In a loving relationship, do you argue with it?
In a appropriate way. So I think I'm going to say resist rather than argue, right?
Yes.
Careful.
Resist dealing with it. Do you challenge it?
It challenges me, the relationship sometimes, for sure. But let me ask you this, Tom. So you've just had a break. You've not had a break for a while. Looking at this list of these different types of rest, which of these could you identify you've experienced while you've been away on your little break?
Well, what's really fascinating with this, and that you asked me that, and I actually had a minute to think about it. I had all of them at different times. So I live in Los Angeles. We went to Joshua Tree National Park. Now, for you in Australia or you in the US that don't know it, when you hear Joshua Tree, it's not like a usual tree. It's not a forest as you would think of a forest. It's the high desert. And the high desert means it gets more water, it gets snow in the winter. And Joshua trees are very architectural type of trees that rarely have more than like 3 arms to them or 3 branches. And if they have more, that's quite rare. But it's a very different, very beautiful thing to see. So in the first part of the vacation, it was getting away from everybody. It was very physical, and physically and mentally quiet. And we take care of my mother-in-law, his mom, and it was just a separation and a rest from each other. We all need those, and that was nice. Then the next on Friday, it was very social rest and actually creative in that friends showed up. My best friends in life all came, and they stayed, and we went out to dinner. We ended up with this magnificent dinner, and they ended up having a DJ that played this most beautiful music. It made you feel like you were in Ibiza at sunset or in Greece having coffee, like from 6 to 7. It's this type of music they play. Also in Europe, they do the same thing. But it was very social and emotional, and it was creative and all of that. It was great. And then on Saturday, we went to the desert and Joshua Tree and all that. So that was physical and it was sensory and it was all that fun stuff. But our spiritual, sensory, emotional vacation happened on Saturday night because we went to this outdoor, it's a location where energy is supposed to be really strong, spiritual energy. And it was under almost like barely almost, it was a very bright moon, laying on blankets outside, and it was a sound bath where they just play the bowls at different decibels and different notes and create this sound that you just meditate and you let yourself go and experience and just sense and lose yourself in the moment. So I was able to get all of it in very specific ways throughout my long weekend.
Awesome. So follow-up question, and then I'm going to expand the prompt a little bit. How do you feel? Like, what was your state of being coming away from this?
The amazing thing is that I've learned through sobriety and through life to appreciate the moments. And I could be in the moments and truly be in the moment and enjoy it for what it was and know that this was a magical time. and experience it as just a magical time that hit on each one of those pieces of rest, each one of those sensory and objectives, and I don't want to say objectives because like I went out to do that, but they just kind of happened, and I let it happen, and I enjoyed every moment of it, and it was magical. It was a truly magical weekend.
Perfect. So this is the additional prompt, right? So I was discussing this in a forum focused on creating thriving cultures, right? And that starts with self, and then it expands into the group that the self is serving, and then it goes out beyond into the broader system, organization, community, what have you. And we were talking about these different types of rest. And I'm just going to put them up again here. So physical, mental, sensory, creative, emotional, social, and spiritual. Yes,
Can you expand you two for a moment, just for a moment? Just make you big.
Sure. Hello. So what we were then exploring was, of these 7 types of rest, for each individual, which are the modes that you rest with, and which are the modes that you rest from? So, for example, sensory rest. So right now, like a lot of people in Australia, I'm spending most of my day like this. Hello, interacting with a flat screen and a small camera. And hopefully you on the other end of it. That's a real sensory sort of race. That's a long... Tom, there's a lot of background noise coming through from your mic. Thank you. And so when it comes to the end of a workday, like I need like a real sensory break. So I often have like 0 screen time or very little screen time after the workday. Similarly, I'm actually finding that whilst I have some creative expression even in my work, being creative in a way that I wouldn't normally is beneficial in being in a resting state. So I've been homeschooling. I've had 2 kids, 7 and a 3-year-old, and joining them and doing arts and crafts, even colouring in and stuff like that, is really helpful. And shout out here to my mother-in-law. That's very rare. See that book right there? That's a colouring in book of Australian flowers, which I love, like native Australian foliage. And no, I'm not going to show you any of my colouring in. But like that's a gift that she passed on to me, having heard me sort of express how much I was getting this sort of respite from being creative in a professional mode by doing creative things. So this is the other question that we were exploring in this forum. I thought would be interesting to share here. What are these modes of rest that you can use with? So resting with some of these modes and resting from some of these modes. Tom, just over to you. Any thoughts on resting with and resting from? What works for you before we start to wrap up today?
I don't quite understand the question.
Well, you've got 7 modes of rest, right? Some of them you need a clear break from, right? So you're resting from doing that. So that might be social, right? Your social interaction sort of draws energy, that you actually need rest from social.
And introverts are going to need that more than extroverts.
Yeah. But the other forms, or again, the variability within the relationship that you need to create with rest means that you might rest with one of these modes. So going for a hike, as opposed to a really strenuous marathon or a really sort of pumping gym session or rock climbing or something like that. Going for a hike might be resting with a physical activity as opposed to resting from. Is that sufficient explanation?
Yeah, I'm just questioning all your analogies today. Now you're humping for your booty calling.
Hiking, Thomas. Hiking. Well, your interpretation, not my words. So over these months that we've been talking a lot about stress, and we've been getting a lot of questions about how can you decrease stress? How can you move towards thriving? How can you move away from burnout, move towards thriving? I think this is operative here. These modes of rest, cultivating a relationship with rest, these are part of the framework that you can generate for yourself to start to decompress, reduce stress, move away from bad stress, high stress, towards thriving.
I would actually also recommend that you ask yourself, what is it to use emotional rest to relax versus emotions are overwhelming. When is mental activity good to relax versus when is it over stimulating? And ask yourself on each one of these rests what those are, so you help keep yourself aware of when you're hitting those points one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really, I think, take this and do some action-based research, right? Apply, observe, reframe, observe again, and keep playing with it. This is what I'm doing right now, and I'll report back in future Tim Talks. But we kind of set ourselves a little bit of an out at 15 minutes, saying we think that's probably about the right length, and we're just about to go over 60 minutes. So we're going to say fairly well for today. Before we go, that dear man there is about to hit a significant amount. So you're not getting out of here without me saying happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. See you next time on Tim Tom Talks. Happy birthday to you.
And many more.